So with that, I am really excited to bring on Jen Hammer with Silvernest, who's going to tell us about home sharing, the growing trend of home sharing, and some of the resources out there, and some of the exciting partnerships that her organization is forging. But before we jump in to the topic of home sharing, Jen, let's get to know you a little bit better. Of course, I'm not sure how many years I've known you, but I feel like I know you pretty well these days. But tell everybody a little bit about your background and what led to you in your current role with Silvernest that specializes in home sharing.
Yeah, you bet. I know, Steve, it's we've known each other for a long time now, I guess. So thank you for letting me hop on here today. I really appreciate everything you do and these programs. And there's some familiar names in the participants thing. So hello to, I love that. I started out, I was a Navy wife, actually. I moved around a lot. I had a lot of really random jobs. And one of my latest career moves was to kind of get into the senior space. I worked with Matt Paxton for a while, some of you might know, doing hoarding cleanouts, and then that led to senior move management, kind of downsizing, offshoot. And then I met the founder of Silvernest, which is a home sharing platform, and I took what I knew from downsizing, and I took what I knew from my personal experience of home sharing, because I home shared myself. So I'm not just professionally an advocate, but personally. My kids had gone off to college and I was single, so I home shared for a while. And I said, gosh, this is an amazing way to live, honestly. And I also saw kind of a need of, you got to rearrange your stuff, not only when you move, but when someone moves in, or, and so I'd kind of seen it from that lens. And I was fortunate enough to get picked up by the Silvernest team. And now I've been with them for a few years, and I couldn't be happier. And I have the best job in the world, which is being on the partnerships team of Silvernest. So I partner all over the country with folks who are interested in scaling home sharing.
Yeah, and home sharing for older adults it's not a new concept. I think the Golden Girls were front and center in our lives for many years, and so it's something that people understand. But I think that now more than ever, when we talk about isolation, when we talk about affordability, when we talk about collaboration and what have you, it just makes such sense. But for many people, the last time they shared a home with somebody they weren't married to could have been decades, and so having resources that can make it easier, and like you said, there are some adjustments, that need to be made. But to me, this is one of the most exciting concepts in aging in place, because it addresses one of the challenges of aging in place, and that's loneliness and isolation. And if you've got a person you're sharing a home with, that minimizes it. So I'm babbling here, but I'm
no,
really
that's okay. You've actually hit on some of my opening slides, because it really is something, which is great. No, you're spot on. Cool. And it's something a lot of people have done before, and we're just kind of, as you get a little older, I was 48 when I started sharing my home the first time. You're a little more rigid maybe, and so we just add some layers of information and questions and services that make it a little bit easier to kind of maybe get past, you're not 22 anymore and just hanging out with a roommate in an apartment. This is your home, and it's a little different.
And I think I think some of the things that I'm excited that I hope you're going to discuss today is some of the partnerships that you are forging now with nonprofits and government agencies to support home sharing. Correct? You're going to touch on that?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go pretty quick. I love questions. I honestly think that's where you pull out the most. So absolutely. I kind of divided this into 3 parts, a quick kind of what's home sharing, how we do it at Silvernest, just because that's how I know it best, and then examples of our partnerships. And I'll just kind of, I'll talk a little fast and get through it, and we'll just get to the good stuff, which I always think is the conversation.
Great. So I'm going to duck behind the curtain here, and if you want to share your screen, then we can get on this. And as Jennifer had said, you can ask questions at any point. Just type them in to Q&A, or when we kind of open things up, you can raise your hand. But take it away, Jen.
Okay, and you've got this correct?
Yeah, looks
Okay,
good. Looks
great.
good.
All right, perfect. Thanks. Okay, well, like I said, we're going to do a quick little kind of what is home sharing, then a little bit about what we're seeing from our company's lens, and then examples of how we're partnering. A lot of you probably know this, but just to kind of level set, our aging population is growing every day. Most people 65 and over live alone, and they want to stay in their homes. And staying in your homes is usually a more affordable way to live, and it's oftentimes a healthier way to live. People just tend to want to be there, and they're happier there. And if we can help that along and help people stay in their homes, that's one of the goals of home sharing. So this is kind of a typical user that we see out in the marketplace all over the country that home shares. Suzanne, 67, she's single because she's divorced. She owns her home. She's a very independent, active person. She hikes. This is actually one of our users. Every slide on here, by the way, has our actual users. But like a lot of Americans and especially women, she's under a lot of financial pressure and is worrying, hey, have I saved enough for retirement? Can I stay in my home? All those questions you kind of start asking yourself. And there's just millions more people are like Suzanne. And again, these are all users, which I'm really proud of. I think I'm in there somewhere. So what are we going to do about this? Well, there's a few solutions. Unfortunately, inaction tends to be one. People are just kind of paralyzed. They don't know what to do. And that's the worst solution, really, because it's expensive and it just creates more problems. Affordable housing is a solution. It's being built. It's expensive. It usually takes years, and it's difficult to get land, especially now, and lumber prices. I think we're all watching those go up. So just the costs of new construction are rising, and the difficulty getting those tax credit dollars are really rough. My sister's an affordable housing developer, so I talk to her about this all the time. And finally, there's home sharing, which is I think a great solution, not for everybody, but for a lot of people, home sharing is a great solution. It's immediate, it's affordable, it's flexible, it's scalable, and it's on your own terms. So it's something I really hope that people just maybe consider. And I'll throw this, what I think is an amazing number out there. There is an estimated 55 million empty bedrooms in this country. So that's a lot of bedrooms. There's no way we could build that anytime soon, that number of rooms. So how do we address all this? It's a simple solution, just like Steve said. I think maybe you saw this slide before, Steve, but we've all kind of done this before. A lot of us have, or know someone who has, and it's just having a roommate. And it can address housing issues, financial issues, aging in place issues, the social isolation and loneliness issues. I even, in some of my government talks, we talk about it providing, a way to prevent gentrification and displacement. So there's just so much that one, sharing a bedroom in your home, so many things it can solve for both parties. So traditionally, though, there's a lot of gaps, especially once you get to this, age where you have more stuff, you probably have a larger home, and you're a little more, who you are, and you're a little more set in your ways. So some of the problems are compatibility. How do we make sure the person we're going to live with, because this is such a personal thing, is to share a space with someone? How do we make sure that we're compatible? How do we get out in front of problems? How do we talk about the things that we need to talk about before we make this home sharing arrangement, and have some conversations that might seem a little uncomfortable to have them at the beginning, but it's way better to have them in the beginning than not have them and then have something become a problem. And finally, protection. How do you protect yourself before you home share and while you home share? Not only just your belongings, but your identity until you're, ready to go a little further down the road with this person. So those are a lot of things that we address. And I'll tell you, and so this is how Silvernest addresses them. But I would submit those are things that every home sharing program in the country that I've seen, a lot are small and localized, but they're trying to address these issues. So on our platform, there's a security feature. You have to have ID verification just to get on. We have background screens for both homeowners and housemates. All the messaging is encrypted, so you'll never give away any personal information on our website until you are ready to. Everything's on our platform, so you never leave to go do a background screen. You never leave to find your matches or talk with your matches, or we have auto rent payments, we have insurance coverage. All those things are on our platform, and you're never going off into the ether somewhere unsure of where you are. We are nationwide. We've had listings in all 50 states. It's very scalable. Some of our geographies are a lot more dense than others, but if we had unlimited Google dollars to advertise, I guess we could, have have inventory everywhere. And finally, we're really savvy. We have spent years building this platform, and we're really good at home sharing. It's what we do. So from the very beginning of the process to finding your match, to creating the lease, to the home sharing, to the end, we're there the whole time. And we're really good at understanding where our users are and knowing, hey, maybe, they're stuck here, or, we need a little help there. And what can we do? We're always looking for ways to support our users. So this is this is just direct to consumer model. So this is how, if you just go to silvernest.com, which I hope you will, I hope you'll check it out. You can sign up. You can either sign up as a person with room to share, so a homeowner. And I will say, you don't have to actually own your home. As long as it's okay for you to have a roommate, then you can sign up as a homeowner. But for our purposes, we'll say homeowner. And you post a profile. We ask questions all about things that would be important while you're home sharing. Pets. Do you have gender preferences? Do you have age preferences? Smoking, firearms, all kinds of questions. And then the people looking for affordable housing options are doing the same thing. And then obviously, as a homeowner, you're going to fill out information about your space that you have to share. So then you're going to get matches, and you'll get percentage matches. We'll say, hey, this person is an 83% match, or this person is a 92% match. Kind of a side note, most people don't look for 100% matches, or don't end up getting the 100% match on our platform because they don't really want to live with themselves. So sometimes it's nice to have someone a little bit different from you. When you find that person, we can help you create a lease, which is kind of the nuts and bolts, the how much and how long, how many months, and then house rules too. Kind of what spaces are we sharing? What are we not sharing? Are there, hours around when we can do laundry? All those things that matter. So once that's in place, then you can link your bank account, and we collect the rent. Well, we don't collect the rent. The rent is transferred automatically. And it's automatically processed each month. And that's where Silvernest monetizes. So 5% of that rent we collect in an admin fee. So that keeps you on the platform, that keeps the auto rent payments, and that also engages our insurance coverage, which is $10,000 for the renter's items and $100,000 coverage for the homeowner for any damage that the renter might do to the property. And I can talk more about that and have an appendix slide if anyone has questions. So until we do our job, we don't get paid, basically is what happens. So if you're renting out a room for $500, it would be a $25 a month fee. So this is a typical Silvernest user. This is a nationwide average. So I think it skews a little bit higher on the monthly rent and savings in DC because this is such an expensive market. But our users tend to be female, and homeowners are a little older. Monthly rent is $850 nationally, so about $10,000 a year, and monthly savings over market rate is $750. We do have a lever you can pull on our website where you say, hey, oh, I found this person, everything seems great, it's just our budgets don't match. So as a homeowner, you can indicate that you will offer reduced rent for help around the house. And a side note on that is that's non-licensed, non-medical. This is just stuff I would probably classify as chores. So raking the leaves, walking the dog, things like that. But if you can kind of get that budget maybe down a little bit, or just meet in the middle somewhere in exchange for a few chores with that perfect person, it's a nice thing to be able to do. And then we're seeing a lot of intergenerational opportunities on our website too. But this slide is just representative of our averages. We've had every age on the platform. Anyone 18 and older can be on it. And then obviously males, females, we have all kinds of stories and pairings, and it's actually really fun to talk to our users. So this is just this is a little bit of a braggy slide, but it really does. Steve alluded to this earlier when he kicked me off so nicely, but This is really a healthier way to live, especially with the social isolation and loneliness piece. And I will say, as a personal note, I didn't even realize how kind of lonely I was when I empty nested. I'm pretty outgoing and I had a bunch of friends, but then my kids left and I didn't know what people did on Friday nights because I was always at a high school football game. So best thing I ever did was get a roommate. The income was great. And who couldn't use an extra, $500, $800, $1,000 a month? It was the reduced mental stress is a big deal too, because you just don't realize sometimes when you're alone how much stuff you do on your own. And it's so nice to just maybe have a roommate that wheels in the trash can or lets your dog out if you're running late or calls you and says, can I pick something up at Safeway? Do you need anything? All those little things add up and matter a lot. So I just really want people to keep that in mind. Sometimes it really can be a fun way to live. And it really is just another choice. This platform will never tell you who you need to live with. We'll never tell you that, you need to charge this much or anything. We're a tool. We're going to put a lot of things in place to help work through the home sharing process because it can be a big change. But at the end of the day, this is your choice. This is an empowering thing. I think when there's more choice, it's more empowering. It might not be for everybody, but gosh, if it works for 20% of the people that come through, I'm happy that 20% of the people found someone to live with and to save money and earn money and find just a new kind of expanded way to live your life. So this is just some impact at the bottom. We've rented well over 11,000 rooms now. The savings and income is at 54 million. And we did a very, very modest estimate of healthcare reduction costs because it costs about $1,600 into Medicare for social isolation and loneliness. That's what they're kind of averaging right now is that expense. So this is just to give you some ideas. I think this is where the fun part of partnerships is because you can go, who can I help and how can I help them? Obviously, older adults and empty nesters are great. On the affordable housing side, or maybe they have a house and they lost a roommate. Graduate students, undergrads, college kids, they need a place too. And it's especially hard here when some of these graduate students doing an internship come into DC and they're looking for a place to live. We did some pilots that I'll talk about with Teach for America. And we even repurposed one of our partnerships for the wildfire evacuees up in Portland. So people were displaced from their home and they said, hey, why don't we use home sharing as a way to help out those folks that are displaced? So it's real impact and it's really fun to just think through how could sharing a room help somebody some way. So last part of this, I'm going to go through a few examples. I think I have 4 here. And I'll do them quickly, but I alluded to that on the last slide, the Teach for America pilot back in 2019 in Denver. Our platform, we learned how to badge folks. So we partnered with Teach for America, which is part of AmeriCorps, if you're not familiar, and spread the word about this program. And it was really successful. We had 20% of our Teach for America teachers placed. We badged them with AmeriCorps Teach for America badges. So because people were actively looking. They were saying, how can I host a teacher in my community? And some of the stories, my favorite one, it wasn't Lana and Nishay, it was another girl named Denise, but she said she'd never driven 700 miles anywhere by herself. So she drove 700 miles to Denver. And instead of going into an apartment that was empty and she had to set everything up, she said her host, Marnie, was waiting there in the driveway for her and had dinner and fresh sheets and towels on the bed and was so happy to see her. And she said it just lowered every bit of her stress level and she knew her year was going to be okay. So anyway, we all kind of cried the first time we heard that story. This was Homeshare Oregon. This partnership has been great for us. Homeshare Oregon is a statewide partnership. They rolled home sharing into their suite of services. They have a lot of other services too, but you can kind of see on this right hand, it's their program is we're the technology that's powering their program. So the Homeshare Oregon program is front and center. And they do a lot of services that we can't do. And this is where I get really excited about these nonprofit partnerships because we're a technology platform. We don't have boots on the ground and we don't have offices that can support people and help people that maybe need something more than our website can provide. And that is what Homeshare Oregon does. And they do it statewide. They can get to people in rural communities. They can get, support services that maybe home sharing wasn't right for someone, but now they have them. They know that they need something and they can provide other services for folks that come in through their website. So, but for the people that sign up in Homeshare, we do that, and we do that very easily. It's so many programs were pen and paper, and it was just laborious and took a lot of time. But we take all that heavy lifting and do all the auto rent collection and all of the home, the insurance and things like that for them. And then they do what they do best. And they also have those local connections and all that local outreach that we don't have. So it's really, everyone's just, I love it when people are doing exactly what they should be doing. Homeshare South Bay is a little different. That is a direct partnership with a government, a council of governments, actually. It's around Los Angeles, California, and it's not in Los Angeles. It's actually cities and counties right outside of Los Angeles, 14 of them. And we've been talking to them for a while, and they were really, really focused on homelessness, as they should be. So we said, well, once someone is homeless, honestly, that's not someone that Silvernest can help anymore. That's a set of services we can't provide. But how about if we prevented homelessness? Wouldn't that be a better thing? If we kept people in their houses, if we kept them from losing their houses, or we found affordable housing, that they couldn't find. And they said, I love them. They're so innovative and so progressive. And they said, yeah, let's do this. And so we're funded under homelessness prevention innovation funds. And so we see this as a way to catch people upstream and keep people housed and keep them from ever being homeless. Because once you're homeless, that's just a whole new ballgame and just terrible. And finally, this is our most recent partnership. I love this one for so many reasons. A lot, I love that it's up the road. The team is amazing. HIP Homes is Housing Initiative Partnership, actually is the nonprofit that has a home sharing program, and they just had so much vision. And as did Montgomery County. We worked with them. Montgomery County issued an RFP. They awarded it to the Housing Initiative Partnership, and they just launched in 2021. And it's just been an absolute joy to watch this thing take off. And it's HIP is Housing Counseling Agency, HUD approved Housing Counseling Agency. So they know this is where I talk about that perfect marriage. Everyone's doing what they should be doing. And they know where these homeowners are. They know, what they need. They're right there, with them. They can be shoulder to shoulder if they need to, helping them along. But then if they're the right candidate for home sharing, then we can use our platform and our technology to find them a roommate, and hopefully build some income or whatever they need, address social isolation and things like that. So it's just, I love this one. It's the newest one, but it just, it just makes me proud. And I think it's going to do really, really well. And I'm excited that it's in an area that it is so needed. So this is just kind of an overview. This is how we get funded all different ways, grants, private donors, RFPs, affordable housing preservation funds. We're talking to folks all over the country. So, I think the ROI on home sharing is ridiculously high. Average build of an affordable, one unit of affordable housing, not a building, but one unit in a building is usually around $250,000 or $300,000. And that's one unit. What I can do with scads less money is help a lot more people very, very quickly. So I guess my ask before I stop here is, if you have any ideas or you want more information, or if you know somebody, if you know a program, please contact me. It's jennifer@silvernest.com. I love what I do, and I love figuring out ways to help people find affordable housing and stay in their homes and earn extra income. So I'm going to stop there.
And wow, this is great. And we got a ton of questions that are coming in. So we always like that, because that really takes the discussion to a different level. But this is great. So I'm just going to start jumping into these questions, and just remind everybody that if you want to type in a question, type it into Q&A, or raise your virtual hand and we'll bring you on, and you can just ask a question or share a topic. And actually, if there's anybody in the audience that has experience home sharing, love to hear from you too. Like, what are some of the good and challenging things that have occurred in that environment. Okay, so first question is, how long has Silvernest been providing this service?
We have been since 2016. We started in Denver, so that's actually one of our best markets still because that's where it was founded.
Okay, great. And then is rent money taxable income? So like if you're, yeah.
Right, we ask that a lot. So we don't send out anything regarding your income. So that would be a question for everyone's own individual financial, person. So.
Okay. And let's see, how does your company get info in front of affinity groups like the LGBT community with one of the hot social issues on the country's radar the last year? Does this create barriers or resistance to homeowners and not discriminating? That's from Denise Valeria.
Okay, I'm not sure if I fully understand the question, but we.
Oh, I guess I think what you could see with this is maybe like framing it a different way is that, you know, if somebody wanted to share their home with somebody that had similar interests and backgrounds, like, is there a way that you support matching? And the opposite of that would be, putting somebody in an area where they might have conflict. And I as opposed to LGBT, I mean, maybe pets are another thing that you could sort of address there.
Right. So I think I see where you're going with it. So, so compatibility, right, is the number one thing we do. Nothing else on our platform is going to work if we don't address the compatibility piece. That's why it's first. That's why you build a profile. That's why it's full of questions and questions around gender identity and things like that. And you don't have to disclose them, but of course, disclosing them is helpful. We've had, I don't know how familiar you are with SAGE, but I'm in, good contact with SAGE. It's an LGBTQ national elder advocacy group. And we've had them look through our platform just to make sure we weren't missing anything and to make sure we were being as, sensitive and as inclusive as possible. And this was done 2 or 3 years ago. And we continue to, work with them to make sure that we're always being as kind and as, inclusive as we can possibly be, because this platform's for everybody. So, and finding that person is what we want you to do. So that's key.
Let's see. Okay. Well, and Denise commented, she goes, I just looked at your website. It's great and full of so much info. So everybody, go check out Silvernest. Somebody's asking is how new is the Montgomery County program?
It launched in January of this year.
Okay, so that's relatively new. And Mary Darn asks, what is an RFP? And that stands for request for proposal. But again, this is a great reminder for all of us in this field, is that if you can eliminate acronyms from your vocabulary, unless you're talking to a coworker who knows that vernacular, it can save everybody a lot.
Oh, I agree. I mean, having been a Navy wife, I tried to eliminate most of the acronyms, but that one slipped in there. So good catch.
Yeah. And so in that context, I mean, your organization is now skilled at completing these requests for proposals that government and nonprofits might have, whether it be a solution for affordable housing or specifically, hey, we're trying to do this home sharing program, but we're not having a lot of luck. Is there a way that you could help us out?
I mean, getting the dollars allocated is the big thing, right? But just to be really clear on the Montgomery County request for proposal, I had talked with some of the folks there in Montgomery County about this, and like I said, they were so great to put that proposal out for home sharing dollars that they allocated, but the actual proposal was awarded to a nonprofit. So other nonprofits applied and HIP was the one that was awarded. And if you kind of consider, we were in the proposal as a possible vendor. They said Silvernest or equal. And so we're kind of a vendor to HIP, if that makes sense. But always happy to discuss that with anyone who's curious.
Denise has another question on the city, suburban, rural, kind of breakdown. And I think you alluded to that, that do you have specific breakdowns on that in terms of?
I don't think I have any hard numbers. Rural areas are difficult for a lot of things, including inventory for us, just getting the word out there. Sometimes there's bandwidth issues, internet access issues. There's just access issues, period. When you get out in less dense populations, we tend to be able to come into a geography like DC, Southern Florida, LA, Denver, Portland, things like that, where there's just population density. But we're trying, that's part of these partnerships, is if I can find a partnership out in a rural community and bring this to rural communities, I of course want them to have, inclusive means inclusive, right? No matter who you are, where you live, socioeconomic status, anything. I want everyone to be able to have this as a choice.
Yeah, and I'm pretty confident that if we looked at your breakdown, it would be the same breakdown that's on Craigslist, that's on Zillow, that's on all of the real estate platforms, is that it's just, density creates more opportunity for things like this. Ernie's got a lot of questions here. This is great. Okay, so Ernie says, what is the process for eviction if it's required? Did the eviction moratorium apply to your platform in sharing a room in somebody's home? Wow. Boy, talk about an awkward situation.
It is. And so I'll kind of go back to a couple of things. So compatibility A is, first and foremost. So when you have a compatible roommate, that's much different than when maybe someone is renting out an empty space, an empty home or an empty apartment. They don't really know them. So we haven't seen that on our platform because people form these bonds, and that's just hasn't been an issue. But that's not to say that it wouldn't be, which is why we protect with that lease. So there's still a lease in place. Now, it's like anything, kind of like I said on the tax question, if there's any kind of legal issues and it gets down the road, I mean, you need to do what you would normally do in that situation, and probably, contact some type of legal aid. If there's criminal activity, you contact the police. If there's financial questions, you contact your tax, preparer. We're just basically, if you just look at us as this really, really good information tool.
And people can call you and bounce ideas about this.
Sure.
I just glanced into comments. I'm still working on Q&A. I didn't, but a great question in comments from Barbara Tobias. If you are a homeowner and looking for a roommate that can help you with some tasks, is the first step setting it up in the profile. So the cool thing about your platform is that you could sort of set a rent price, but then if somebody would help mow the lawn, grocery shopping, things like that, they could earn a discounted rate, correct?
Correct, yeah. So you can put that in the very beginning of your profile. And there's also, even if you don't indicate that in your profile from the beginning, you can always go back and change it. Or, we do have a ton of, FAQs and blogs and tips on how to negotiate rent. And that could be something you go, hey, do you have a dog? I could do some pet sitting for you if you're a business traveler. Sometimes people just don't think of it. And that's where we do a lot of these conversation starters of, let's talk about this. I saved so much money when I traveled for business because my roommate watched my dog. I think that was the biggest win for me. My dog was happy and I was saving money. So.
Oh yeah,
it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I had to do that, it was like, not cheap to have somebody either walk your dog or to board your dog. In fact, I think I was spending more for my dog than I was on the hotel rooms that I was traveling.
It's crazy. And they don't give you any doggy walk-in points. At least you get hotel points.
Let's see. How does the home sharing process work with COVID-19 screening? Any sort of thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually, and I can, that was part of my appendix, which I'm happy to share really quick. I can,
Sure.
I'll show you guys. Let me find I'm being a little wonky here. One sec.
And let's see, while you're doing that.
Yeah, this is our COVID conscious. So we did 2020, everybody, right, had to kind of do whatever they needed to do to pivot their business, their personal life, whatever it was. So we said, hey, what's going to happen to home sharing? Is there going to be even interest anymore in what we're doing? We found out, yes, there was more interest because people did not want to move. They said, I'd much rather get used to one person than move into, a big community at the time. And so, and then we surveyed everyone kind of where they were at too. We surveyed people who'd just gotten on the platform, were looking, were home sharing. And the stories that came out of that were pretty amazing. I had people say, I don't know how I would have gotten through stay-at-home orders without my roommate. Other people were like, I'm so glad I have a roommate because I've been furloughed, or, I got my hours cut or whatever. There was a lot of, very few people had stopped looking to home share or were, didn't want to home share anymore. But we did say, hey, the other thing is, and it's getting less now as things change, and this might change a little bit too, but we did add a COVID conscious badge. So that's part of the profile matching too. There's onboarding questions just around like, how do you feel about mask wearing, quarantining, visitors, cleaning, all those kinds of things, because that is part of what you want to be compatible with. So once you fill out that questionnaire, there's a little thing that says, hey, I filled out my COVID conscious badge, and we match people based on that.
Yeah, that's great. That definitely helps with the compatibility, is having those questions there. So let's see, Ernie, another question. Does the program allow the homeowner to maintain their own furnishings versus the roommate bringing their own furnishings?
That's up to you. I mean, that's up to you and the housemate.
Okay, so it does. Yeah, I could totally see that in terms of, hey, look, my preference is you use all the furniture that's in this bedroom so that we're not moving stuff in and out, and then you put your stuff in storage if that's.
Yeah, I've seen it both ways. I've seen people that say the room can be furnished or unfurnished, you can bring things, you can, and that's really where, these are two adults deciding, does this, because this has to work for the homeowner and the housemate like this, and we facilitate those conversations, but that's for you to decide. I will say one of my favorite ones, this woman said, well, I don't know. She said, the one thing is, I want my kids to come back for Christmas. She said, I have a 4-bedroom house, 90% of the time it's empty. She said, but my kids usually come back and I host Christmas. And I said, well, put that on your profile. And sure enough, she found a housemate that said, I don't want to be at your house at Christmas. I'll go home. And so it works beautifully. Like they're 3 years now. They've been home sharing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So you get to decide what you want to do is what happens on this.
Let's see. Ernie asks, what is generally covered by the insurance policy for the person sharing versus the person that is the roommate?
Sure. I got a handy dandy slide for that too. How about I just share that? So it's one of its, I don't know that anyone else does this quite. We've spent a lot of time getting this insurance coverage in place. So it is automatic. There's no there's no deductible, and there's no application fee. The home sharing coverage is automatic once those rent payments start. So the very first rent payment engages the insurance. The $100,000 sits on top of the homeowner's insurance, so it would engage first. But it's only for damage that is from the housemate, from the home sharing agreement. So, a tree falling on your roof, we're not going to cover that, right? But the housemate leaves the bathtub running, that's a different story. $10,000 in protection for the housemate's item, same thing, no deductible, no application. And yeah, first rent payment, it kicks in. And there's a ton in our terms of use, which, if you want to really dig in, like anything, again, there's a lot of policies out there. I'm no insurance expert, so,
I tell you what, Jennifer, you may have broken a record on the amount of questions that we've got here. Buckle in and we'll get through all these folks. And if you have to jump off early, No,
I built in time. So
yeah, I'm talking to the attendees.
Okay.
Well, yeah. We're recording this. Okay, so let's see. Does Silvernest users allow for in-home caregivers to come in to assist a housemate? So let's say that somebody is assisting, is living with an older adult, and there is an in-home caregiver that comes and visits. Like, have you encountered that scenario?
I don't know that I've specifically encountered that, but it's not ours to allow or not allow an in-home caregiver to come.
Mm-hmm. I tell you can see where, I think one of the exciting things about this is that if we we shift it into sort of the elder care space where maybe there's an older adult that needs some assistance, doesn't want to leave their home. The home is, large and unoccupied, and
Mhm.
they have a caregiver, a paid caregiver that comes
Mhm.
a few days a week. But now they have a roommate who, in their agreement, part of it is that I need a little bit of assistance, and in exchange for reduced rent. You could see where some of those agreements could start coming together, and that gets really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, so on that reduced rent, I mean, we say, hey, this is for the chores, not for, caregiving. This is not a caregiving play.
No, no,
But I've
absolutely.
talked to some really, I'm in early talks with a really great home care company. And, we're talking about, hey, how can we leverage what we're doing to help people who do have in-home care pay for it, right? Because it's not less, it's a way to help pay for that in-home care.
Teresa Berger says, who might you be working with in the South? We need this so badly in, say, Atlanta. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah,
I don't have a great contact in Atlanta, so this is where, I mean, I know so many, I recognize a bunch of these names, and I'd love to get to know the people I don't know, but if you have a contact, I would so appreciate it. I'm talking to the city of Austin, I'm talking to people in every time zone right now, but there is, I mean, we all know this from the local level to the national, there is nothing like a warm introduction, or just
yeah,
to, vouch for me a little bit and get my
yeah.
first conversation so I can just tell them what we're doing.
So that's great. Yeah, and the cool thing about the partnerships is the partnerships not only support your government or nonprofit partner or organization, but then it adds more inventory into the Silvernest
Mhm.
platform. So it's just a win-win for everybody.
It is. I
Um,
mean, everybody benefits.
let's see, does Silvernest complete the credit check in addition to the background check?
We currently don't have the credit check. So that would be something that if that is part of what you need to, what you want to do, there's, companies out there that can run a credit check.
Okay, great. Okay, and let's see. Three questions that came in, and they all have sort of the common theme: equal housing, discrimination, just, the challenges that that is on the headlines these days is equality, whether it be racial, religious, or what have you. Any sort of words on that topic?
Yeah, no. So we, like I said earlier, I mean, we want to be, a platform that anybody and everybody feels welcome on and included on. And we work on that every single day. And if there's ever anything, our team is very nimble and very responsive and very mission driven. So, if there's ever any red flags that anyone sees, I would please contact me. But we strive every day to be the most inclusive platform we can be, because that's better for everyone. On the kind of maybe I'll say two more things. I think this is a way to build stronger communities instead of, the gentrification that's happening. DC has one of the highest percentage of, gentrification rates. So does Austin right now. And we see this as a way to really keep strong, connected communities instead of, mowing everything down and putting in housing no one can afford. So I think this is a play in that space. You're maintaining communities and maintaining affordable housing stock. And then I think there was one more thought I had, but it just escaped me. What was the first
Okay.
part of your, I don't know.
Oh, it was just more on fair
Oh,
housing.
fair housing. Yes. So thank you. So yeah, so everything we do is fair housing compliant. We could not, so we make sure that people are doing this to home share, and we, under our terms of use, and we also just watch everyone's listings as best we can. We mine them all the time. You cannot list any empty space. Like, this has to be for home sharing, because you can decide who you want to live with if this is a roommate situation, and that's under, that's compliant, but you would not be compliant to do this with empty space or an empty home.
Great. Okay. Let's see. Ravi Bala, I want to thank you for cutting, pasting questions that were in chat for me. That makes my life a lot easier here. Let's see. And Audra Bakaitis says, do you hold real estate license or any kind of license? But also, I guess to add on to that, how do you work with realtors? I imagine, realtors could be a source of partnership for finding
Right.
home sharing.
You know, that's really interesting because I know there's a play there and I honestly haven't figured it out. I've talked with several kind of close friends who are real estate agents and I've said, hey, I always feel like a partnership, you know, what can we give back to you? And it always seems to come back to, they're like, well, you'd be great, you know, to gap a home sale or a home build or just somebody, you know, who can't afford to buy a home and needs to save up. And we're kind of, it always has come back to, I'm just another tool in the toolkit and they can refer us. But I'm not sure what I could do for a realtor, but if somebody out there has an idea, I'm certainly willing to listen.
But you guys don't hold, there's
Oh,
no
no, we don't have
licensing.
no,
Okay,
no, no,
gotcha.
no.
And then let's see, this goes back to sort of exchange, like an agreement with a landlord or the homeowner, and services are involved. Alyssa asked, how do you keep the service exchange from moving closer to an employment contract and work? And again, I think your default is every relationship is going to be a little bit different.
Mhm. It is. And I mean, we do say we're very clear when you're filling this out that, you know, we are not advocating, you know, anything that requires a license from home care to, you know, an electrician or a plumber. Like, don't say, hey, if you'll fix my plumbing, I'll reduce your rent. And it's not, you
Yeah.
know, you want to, you know, you want to be an adult here and be smart about who you're letting in your home to do what.
I also imagine you've got to be careful in that, like, okay, yeah, if you mow my lawn, you know, then the price for the rent is X dollars, and then the tenant doesn't mow the lawn, you know, you've got
well,
to
that's actually written up in the lease agreement. So that would be in violation of the lease. Like, and that's one of the things that we do capture in the lease.
Okay, cool. Okay, I got that round there. Let's see. Credit checks, Laura says credit checks and having first and last month's rent is often a big hurdle for renters. Do you work with people who may not have these issues? So, you know, talking about affordability, any?
Yeah, so we have on our platform, you know, we kind of have suggestions. We have a rent calculator that based on your zip code and your offerings, you know, some people just need a starting point, but this is, again, you decide. I mean, you can, you know, the market will bear what the market will bear. You can decide what ultimately you want to put, you know, if we recommend 800 and you're like, well, I think my room's worth 1,000, you can put $1,000 on there. You can also say, I only needed $200 deposit. You decide what your deposit amount is as well. We don't decide any of that for anybody. And that's where inventory and building the inventory of, you know, the more choice, the more inventory we have, you can, you know, filter for your budget, and budget includes deposits.
Great. Kitty Russell has a really good question, and I'm glad you're bringing this up, Kitty, because this is sort of potentially moving within or outside the Silvernest platform to just promoting home sharing in general. And she says, or if two people want to move into a new place together, maybe that's beyond this, but you know, I actually stumbled into a unique home sharing situation many years ago where two people in a neighborhood were searching to move to a retirement community. And they were thinking they would rent two separate apartments in the retirement communities. They were just going and touring together. And then one time they showed them this big, you know, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom suite, and they realized, wow, we'll just move in together, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, that's more of the concept of friends, sisters,
Mhm.
brothers talking together. And it's like, hey, let's go out and get a luxury apartment and rent it together. Is there a way that Silvernest can assist them on that? Or is
You
that
know, not now, maybe down the road, like we've always, you know, we've got a product roadmap, you know, well built out. And that's one of the things that maybe one day we'll have as part of our offering. It's kind of more of a housemate to housemate play to move in somewhere else. But right now, this really is, you know, more about home sharing and aging in place.
Audra asks, do you vet the homeowner to make sure that they're not a month away from foreclosure or bankruptcy? How can you do that?
And we don't.
Oh, you
I
don't?
mean,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, and that would be where a housemate should, Also, we support background screens for both homeowner and housemate. I would suggest a background screen to get started.
Wow. You know what?
Request that.
That's a pretty good suggestion that I didn't even think of. So
And then
let's
you can
see.
do that on our website too, as the background screens for
Okay,
both parties.
very good. Yeah, and obviously the homeowner, if they're background screening the tenants, should not have any problems with that. Ellen Pincus says, is there an age parameter to list a room for rent on Silvernest? Okay.
You just
And
need to
I
be
think,
18 or over and able
Yeah.
to rent. So, you know, this is where you need to understand what the limitations are where you live. Like, does your HOA allow it? Are you in a 55 plus community? All those things matter. So you need to make sure that wherever you live allows you to have the roommate that you're thinking about having.
and your platform is not age exclusive, but it's sort of age, let's call it age targeted, is that there's a lot of older adults who are sharing their homes and it's a niche, but there's not an age limit either way.
Yeah, we've had, 20 something homeowners on there. And I mean, one of the, I was actually here in DC, she wrote in her profile, she said, I'm sick of the weirdos on Craigslist. And so she was on, so you can certainly do that. We just focused on this 50 plus population. Our founder built this whole platform, like a lot of, entrepreneurs and founders do. She built this because her father had died and her mother wanted to stay in the house. They lived in 2 different cities, and she said, my mom needs a roommate. And I see what's happening with our population. And that tends to be who has the room too, is this population.
No, that's great. Okay, let's see. Janie and Tony are asking about specific geographic areas. Let's see, Southwest Florida and Washington State. Any partnerships brewing in those areas?
We have a nice partnership with Sophia, South Florida Institute on Aging, and we have nice inventory down there, but I'm really trying to get some of the other cities in Southern Florida to kind of, Broward County is, on everybody's radar. Orlando has some interesting things going on with just that city is just unusual anyway, with the tourism and things like that. So, but really our one partnership is with Sophia, which is a nonprofit down there. And then Washington State, I'm actually talking with the city, I'm in talks with the city of Seattle. I have another call with them tomorrow. So we're trying to make it happen up there too.
Well, we got through it, and we only went a minute over 1 o'clock, so this is perfect timing. Lots of great questions. Thanks to those in the audience that make this and all of our discussions just so interactive and informative. And don't worry, I'm going to share all of Jen's contacts. I dropped it into chat, but I'm going to share her contact information so you can reach out to her. We'll have a recording of this, and just keep us posted, Jen. It's awesome what you guys are doing, and I really hope that this is a movement, home sharing for older adults, that becomes much more widespread and well known. I think we're just at the beginning stages of
no, I appreciate it. Thank you. And it's so much fun, and it's empowering to just live how you want to live for, even if you just need to do it for 3 months, you can put that on there. Dip your toe in it for 3 months.
Well, I love that. Was it AmeriCorps or what was
Teach for America?
Teach for America. Well, I mean, if any of you have ever looked into the how Airbnb got started, it was conferences. It was people going to a town where either the hotels were booked up or they just didn't want to stay in a hotel. And I love the concept of you supporting home sharing for like assignment, like Teach for America, 3-month assignment or whatever it is. Just makes perfect sense. And it's a great way to kind of kick this thing off. But lots of great comments on how great this discussion has been. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yep, you bet.